What's up, everybody? This is Danny from the Lassercast with my beautiful wife, Athena, and we're going to talk to you about episode 6 of The Stand on CBS All Access. This episode is called The Vigil. So the big talking point, let's get right into it. And right off the bat, we're going to tell you that we are going to get into spoilers for this episode. So if you have CBS All Access, go and check out the episode and then come back and watch our reaction. The big talking point from this episode is the introduction of a pivotal character in the story in Stephen King's novel, and that is Trash Can Man. So what did you think of Trash Can Man?
So I must preface this by saying that I love Ezra Miller with my whole heart. That Perks of Being a Wallflower is one of my favorite movies of all time. And he was perfection in that. And anytime I see him in anything, I love him. And I still love him, despite the fact that I think the way he chose to portray Trash Can Man was just a little too exaggerated. Granted, this is an exaggerated character. What was the name of the guy that did it?
Matt Frewer.
Matt Frewer
was the actor.
He was perfect as Trash. He was perfect. And Miller had those elements in there, but you know, he kind of like moved his face to the side and was like drooling and stuff, and you know, in the book, Stephen King did a really good job of like giving you Trash Can's backstory. I know the television show couldn't do it. They kind of did it in a fire montage, like what happened in his childhood and stuff, and like that's what Flagg would give him. But you know, the only scene that I did like with Trash Can Man was when he finally met Flagg, and Flagg pretended like he couldn't fix his fire, and then Trash Can like got purpose, and he was like, "Look, it's the air," and he did his, you know, my life for you, which he does. I mean, this guy is a crazy pyromaniac. Here and there, I just felt like he went too much.
Yeah, he was a
lot. That's who Ezra Miller is, I think. But
I mean, yeah, you brought up Perks Being a Wallflower. We watched that together. We loved it so much. We have it on DVD. We've watched it multiple times. I jokingly refer to us as the slut and the falcon. I'll leave you to determine who is who in that relationship. That was one of his lines of dialogue in that film, by the way. We both love that movie, and he's a great actor. This, to me, was a weird combination of an actor just going too hard and a director not pulling in the reins. Like, what is the director's job? The director's job is to lead the talent. And, you know, like, in the 1994 miniseries, you had really seasoned film actors in all these roles. Gary Sinise, Molly Ringwald, Rob Lowe. You had Matt Frewer. These are veteran film and TV actors. The actors in this series are a lot younger, and they're a lot less experienced overall. Yeah, you have your James Marsdens and Alexander Skarsgards, but overall, they don't have the IMDb catalog of the people in the 1994 miniseries. And this is so easy for a director to just be like, Ezra, pull it in, buddy. Pull it in, buddy. Come on. And
I did like his look, though. I liked except for the face twisting, I liked his outfit. I liked the scars.
He didn't give me a chance to like his look because, like, literally the first seconds that he's on screen, he is just screaming, and he is so there. And so I saw a tweet from Eric Vespi of the Kingcast. Love the Kingcast. And Eric Vespi wrote, saw a screener for episode 6. We meet Trash Can Man. And his exact tweet was something to the effect of, that was a choice. And I saw that and I went, oh no, that can't be good. And I knew exactly what that tweet meant within 10 seconds of this episode starting. Now, what I will say, Stephen King has a history in his writings of not being politically correct. And you know what? That's fine, because Stephen King was doing most of his writing in the 70s and in the 80s, and we didn't have the PC culture, cancel culture stuff that we have today. So I can excuse when I'm listening to a Stephen King book on Audible, or if I'm reading a book and I see him write the N-word, or have characters that have, handicaps, and like he uses language and words that are no longer acceptable, but he was doing it 30, 40 years ago. I feel like somebody making this show now should have been like, oh, I don't know how people are going to take this.
I saw somebody compare it to Trump making fun of a disabled reporter.
Now.
Well, let me just say, Ezra Miller, he's not the only handy-capable character on the show. And when you compare him to Tom Cullen, who is giving such a fabulous performance, then,
what's his name? Brad William
Henke?
Yeah. He is reserved. Yes, he's playing somebody with, mental hardships, or handy-capable. Yeah, that's what he says. I'm handy-capable. He's doing it in a way that I don't feel like is disrespectful. I feel like some people might look at Ezra Miller's performance and go, whoa. It does come across as just too much in every way. And the one scene that you said you liked, that was totally about Randall Flagg, and not at all, to me at least, about Ezra Miller's performance as Trash Can Man. Trash is one of the most important characters in the book, so he's probably going to be around for a lot more. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he is handled.
I just think Alexander Skarsgård makes everyone better.
Well, let's talk about Alexander Skarsgård.
No, one thing.
No? Okay.
I was just going to say that, similar to what you were going to say, is that he's going to be, what I usually do is, okay, maybe I didn't like the character so much now. Let's see if they're able to develop him or make me like him somehow, or maybe he will. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, you're very big on let's see what happens in the next episode. So just to address that, one of my chief complaints from the last 2 episodes was they're gender swapping these characters for no apparent reason. The judge, who we kept saying, well, maybe we'll see what happens with her in the next episode, we saw her silently for about 10 seconds, and then in the next scene, it is literally implied that she was killed off screen. So that was a complete nonsensical gender swap.
We can't hope that we're going to see that scene.
That's
it. Right?
I mean, Clifton Collins Jr., who played the guy who shot him, he just died a violent death. I can't imagine they're going to go back to that. Let's talk about Randall Flagg, because you especially love Alexander Skarsgård, but I don't think we were very thrilled with his take on Flagg so far until this episode.
Yeah. So
I thought, and I wrote down, this was my favorite Flagg so far. Overall, I loved his scene with Clifton Collins Jr., who, I forgot his character's name.
Bobby Terry.
Oh, Bobby Terry. Yeah, he's not an important character. He's supposed to bring the judge in alive, and he kills her. And that does not make Randall Flagg very happy, and it is a spectacularly violent scene. Like, they get away with a lot of blood, violence. I wrote, there's like sex and cursing and violence sometimes just for the sake of it. I think Pete maybe made a point in one of our first reviews that it feels like we're CBS All Access and we could say a fuck once in a while. That's what it kind of feels like, where it's like, did that really need to be that over the top? Probably not, but they're doing it for CBS All Access. But the scene with him and Clifton Collins, I thought was excellent. Bobby Terry. And I especially love the scene, really, with Mother Abigail, where they kind of meet in the woods.
So let's after Trash Can Man, the scene is over. We meet him. He meets Flagg. He gets taken away. Let's just give a little summary because we're jumping around a little bit. Lloyd is kind of jealous, and that's fine. They bring Bobby, right? The next thing is they bring Bobby Terry, and this is the Vegas plot. they bring Bobby Terry in because he killed the judge, and there's that spectacular scene. Vegas is still way too sexual for my liking. It makes it seem like it's all bad.
I'm sorry, you mentioned the word sexual, and it reminded me. At the beginning, yet another of Trash Can Man's eloquent portrayal, in Ezra Miller's portrayal, is he blows up the oil facility like he does in the book in the '94 miniseries, and he's just gleefully masturbating while he's doing it, and it's just like, again, like that. The director could have just been, Ezra, you don't have to do this. We get it. You like fire. It's like, and in the book, the fire was not a sexual thing for Trash Can Man.
It's something to be worshipped.
It was, yeah, it was, he was a true pyromaniac. He loved the fire to the point where his skin is like melting off and he doesn't mind. But it wasn't like a sexual attraction, and it just came across like weird for the sake of being weird. I'm sorry, you said that, it made me think of another reason I didn't like Trash Can
Man. So in Vegas, right after Bobby Terry is mutilated, and it's a great scene, and I forget the song is Crimson King, which is a nod to the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the full name of the song, I forgot, but that is a nod to the Dark Tower, and after that, all of a sudden, the rat woman mentions something about MOON, and Flagg turns around, and they're gonna go look for Tom Cullen now. Now, this is totally different from the way in the miniseries or in the book Tom Cullen left Vegas. He actually just looked at the moon and was like, okay, it's time to go. But in this, it was a little more like, like what's going to happen, and he cleverly,
that speaks to what we were just saying about how like Tom is portrayed as he's handy capable, but he's also really smart in this. He
knew to take the note and to try to figure out what it meant, and he did. Actually, the rat lady, rat person,
Fiona Dourif,
told him what it meant. Run, and then he kind of like scurried out of there, and then he hid in the truck of dead bodies as they were looking for him.
Which reminded me of a very similar scene in the movie Hostel. If you would definitely not have seen that movie, that is way too disgusting for you. But that's another thing. Like in the book and in the '94 miniseries, Tom is hypnotized to go west, and he's hypnotized to remember when you see the full moon, come home. In this one, he just straight up memorizes what his job is supposed to be. He's even given directives to kill if he has to kill, and he's like, yeah, I'll do it. So he's much more of a strong, independent character, despite his shortcomings, which I liked. The episode is called The Vigil, and that
takes us back to Boulder now.
That takes us back to Boulder. And they are having a candlelight vigil because Mother Abigail, at the end of episode 5, had left. She went on her vision quest, where there's this amazing scene where she encounters Flagg in the woods.
They have a nice little talk.
They have a nice tete-a-tete, as Stephen King would say, in the Dark Tower. And they're holding a candlelight vigil, and this is where, Harold and Nadine's plan is going to come to fruition. Harold and Nadine are going to set off a bomb at the vigil, hopefully killing as many of the important people of Boulder as possible. And that leads to what I think both of our favorite scenes involving Frannie.
Oh, yeah, I finally liked her.
Yeah.
She caught Harold. This is also different. They finally got their, I guess, end confrontation. When Larry didn't find anything except Nadine's t-shirt last time, Frannie went to go and break in when she knew he was going to be out pretending to look for Mother Abigail. She went in there. She saw the video cameras that were right into her bedroom, horrified. She opened another door. She found the bomb stuff, and then Harold comes home. And they have a, They just hash it out. They scream at each other. He says, it was supposed to be his time. Captain Trips was supposed to be like for him to finally be the winner, and then and then she still chose someone else.
I feel like we're broken records at this point, but Owen Teague, the absolute stud standout of this series.
So good.
A guy who, up until this show, I had only seen in the remake of It, and he's basically a bit part in that. But he is so good in this. He has one line that I wrote down. He's talking to Frannie about how he's like, "You were the only thing I wanted in the world, and you wouldn't want me if I was the last man on earth. And then I was, and you still didn't want me." And he says, "You treated me like I was the plague itself." And the fact is, if you go back, she did. The first time you see them together in this series, she's antagonistic to him. And probably for good reason. I mean, we're not painting Harold as this great guy. He was, a peeping Tom. He was kind of a creepazoid. But, and that's what I love about Harold as a character, is there's those shades of gray. Like, he is in many ways, in so many other stories, he would be the hero. He would be, if this was a comic book, he'd be the one bitten by the radioactive spider.
Definitely.
He's the loser who can't get the girl, who gets rejected by all, he wants to be a writer, he's rejected by all the magazines, and, if he would have gotten struck by lightning, he'd turn into a superhero and everybody would love him, and we'd all love Harold Lauder. And the reality is, a plague wipes out all of humanity, except for him and the girl that he likes, and she still chooses not to be with him. And it's like, that rejection is the basis for his downward spiral.
And yet he still seemingly saves her life by locking her in so she doesn't go to the vigil.
Yeah. The one thing, and again, it's not the fault of this episode specifically, because it does follow very in line with the book in terms of how the vigil explosion happens. Henry Zaga plays Nick Andros, and he's good in the bare minimum of time I feel we got to spend with him. And I think also, I mentioned earlier, the cast in the 1994 miniseries was just bigger stars overall. Mm-hmm. Rob Lowe. Rob Lowe in 1994 was a big deal. And even as a 12-year-old, I knew who Rob Lowe was. I think, and again, this is...
And what does this have to do with anything, though?
It's just like... no, my point is, I felt that because Rob Lowe played Nick in the original, mm-hmm. they gave him so much more screen time. Oh. And I felt that we got the whole backstory in the police station. Mm-hmm. We got so much deep backstory with Nick. So we love Nick. So when Nick died, as somebody who didn't read the book, when I was 12 years old and I saw that miniseries, when Nick died, I was like, what? I couldn't believe I thought Nick was going to be like the main character at the end, especially he's deaf and dumb and all of these things.
I mean, we haven't seen the last of him because...
Yeah,
he's going to be in it a little bit more.
Henry Zaga, just to me, he just kind of came and went. He was like... he
was great in the one scene that we had him with.
But he was like Teddy Weezak. He was like, the guy who's friends with Harold. He's just like a character who was there. You never really got, except for maybe one very small scene with Tom and Mother Abigail, you never got the feeling that he was as important a character to this story as he was in the book or even the 1994 miniseries. Mm-hmm.
And now Nadine. She was great in this episode. She was. What I will say is that the take that they had on her about being a teacher and being caring, like, Laura San Giacomo could not have been a teacher in that town just because of how she was. This is how I describe her every time. Like, she wasn't, even though she said she used to be a teacher, she just wasn't someone who acted like they cared about kids or who could act normal, so that nobody ever had, like, everyone knew, like, stay away from Nadine, she's crazy, but nobody knew to stay away from Nadine. They didn't know she was crazy, which is why she was able to just go and plant the bomb instead of sneak into the house frantically and plant the bomb like in this miniseries.
I still think she was closer to the Nadine in the book than Amber Heard is. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps, but I'm liking the choices, and I'm looking forward to seeing her and Harold and Flagg, and see what happens with them. So the bomb goes off. She has a little thing with Larry, and Joe finds Mother Abigail. Almost everybody runs out of the house.
Yeah.
We do see that more people than Nick die. We don't know who yet, though. We just see a few bodies get engulfed by the flames.
Nick is the only of the main characters who dies in the explosion. Stu and Frannie were there, but they were far enough away that they
flew and fell.
Yeah, they get like probably injured, but they're fine. So knowing the book, this is going to lead to, obviously, Harold and Nadine are going to be on their way. They're going to be on their way to Vegas to see Flagg. Mother Abigail is alive, but doesn't look like she's in great shape. And, of course, Colorado is in ruins now because of the explosion.
I think just the house. I don't think all of Colorado.
Yeah.
So I have two last things, and then I don't know if you had to. But I really don't like Ray Brentner. I don't. She is just someone who comes in and yells at people, and the Ralph Brentner was just such a good guy, and like he said funny things.
He was always wearing overalls, and he was cuddly.
Yeah, he was just a good guy, and she has not shown me anything that, I mean, she showed one nice moment to Nick.
I did look her up, and she was Pocahontas. She was the original voice of Pocahontas in 1995. I had no idea.
I'm hoping when she heads out, if she still is going to head out to Vegas, like with the 4 people that go, with the other 3 people that go, that we get a little more with her, because we haven't gotten her backstory.
And that's another thing that I've been saying, like, the gender swaps are fine, totally fine, as long as there is meaning behind them. And so far, there has been zero meaning behind anything. The judge was gender swapped. It was Ozzie Davis, for freak's sake, in 1994. And he had great moments with Larry. Great moments where he had to defend himself from Flagg's guys. Even in a bit part, he was such a big presence on screen. And here, it's this one woman who has like 2 lines of dialogue and is killed off screen, and we're left to imply that. Ray Brentner had, I think, 5 lines of dialogue in this episode, which is 4 more than she's ever had.
Scolding people.
Yeah, she got to yell a few curse words and then apologize because Nadine opened the door with Joe.
So there's that, and oh man, I forgot. Oh, Lloyd was a little bit better. I do like this. I do like when he was dancing around to the music. That was fun. But I still don't think that he's not a right hand guy. He's not taking care of business. And then what is Julie Lowry doing there? Like, she's just his arm candy.
Yeah.
Like, does she not do anything? It seems like Ratman is really the person that's like does things for him. So I'm not really
Lloyd,
sure.
I wrote down Lloyd is better, and then about 20 minutes later I put a dash and I wrote nope.
I do want to know one thing, and I was trying to look it up, and if anybody can tell me, because I'm really ashamed that I don't know, but the number 43, like they just kept showing the elevator, like, hit 43 and then penthouse. And I just didn't know if there was a biblical significance or a connection to the stand. I mean, if it was 19...
I was going to say, if it was 19, we would know. Stephen King...
I mean, I am going to look it up for the next time to see if there... Like, it's got to be something in there. They are throwing other Easter eggs in there, and I don't know if I said this. Did I say this last time about how I hope it ends?
No.
About...
Oh, yes. No, you didn't say it, but
you told... I said it to you. So, whoever has watched this, I just hope it ends with, I'm not going to tell you what the ending is, but I hope it ends with the man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed.
Yeah, and then they could adapt that again, because that was, seven books over 5,000, close to 5,000 total pages in a bullshit 90-minute movie. So yeah.
That's all I got.
So overall, my last thought on this is I hated the first 5 minutes of this episode because I couldn't believe the choices that were made with Trash Can Man, both by Ezra Miller and the director. I can't believe that they let that stay the way it is, and I'm actually scared to see how, because Trash becomes a bigger character later on. I'm really scared to see where Ezra Miller takes this character, because it can take it over the side.
And in the 1994 miniseries, and I think in the book too, they were like, Flagg's men were nice to Trash. And they, not nice like talk, but like they didn't.
They
like,
were
push him around, and Lloyd was like, "Oh, Flagg likes this guy," you know, like.
Yeah, I mean, they were kind of creeped out by him also, because like.
But not at first. This happened afterwards when he was like starting to like.
Yeah,
you know, go overboard. But
I don't
not
know.
When they first got
it also doesn't seem, and like we mentioned this last time when we were talking with Pete and Sherry, it also just doesn't seem like Las Vegas has anything in it.
Any redeeming
aside
qualities.
from hedonism, sex, drugs, violence. It's like pit fighting human beings.
Sex everywhere.
Sex literally everywhere. Like you can walk down the hallway in the casino and there's people like having sex all over the place.
And then normal Vegas gambling.
And then there's just no semblance of any humanity left. And that's such a departure from the book. There's parts of this episode that I genuinely disliked. But at the end of the day, it ended up being one of my favorite episodes, probably my second favorite episode overall, just because of, I thought Flagg, Alexander Skarsgard, brought the menace for the first time. I really liked his character. I liked the Tom Cullen escaping, and I really liked, finally, Fran Goldsmith. Is it Goldsmith or Schmidt? Goldsmith.
Smith.
Yeah, I really liked her and her interactions with Harold, and, you know, that carried the show for me. Thank God Trash was only in it for the first 5 minutes, or else this could have been a really bad episode. So, next week, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Pete and Sherry here covering episode 7. Lassercast is going to be back with some more reviews pretty soon. I know in February we are planning on covering Horror Noir, the documentary, amazing documentary on black horror that's on Shudder right now. So go watch that in preparation for our review.
You should review Valentine's Day and those kind of movies.
I'm sure we will. I'm sure Joe Bob has a special coming up in February. I'm sure My Bloody Valentine will be coming up on this channel in some form. You know, David Boreanaz is in the movie Valentine.
I know.
That movie's terrible, by the way.
Yeah.
It's really bad. All right. See you guys later. Enjoy the stand.